Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I also want to recognize our military families that are here today. It's hard enough to serve in the military. It's hard enough to be a spouse of someone who serves in the military. But you add on to the challenges that we're talking about here today and the types of stories that we've heard for what families have had to put up with. And, you know, as someone who served myself, this pisses me off. And, you know, again, what you endure is hard enough. This is a leadership issue. I appreciate our service leaders being here today and your commitment to address this issue. This is also a leadership issue by these companies. You know, in America, we just came past Veterans Day. We're very patriotic. We want to say thank you for your service and all you do. Yet climate and culture in these companies starts at the top too. And the culture that they have from the top all the way down, whether they are going to be customer service oriented, whether they're going to be responsive 24/7 to the needs of those families, whether they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that they are addressing the health and welfare of these families. I mean, that's a climate issue. So maybe, you know, maybe some of the CEOs need to move into some military housing over the holidays. What do you guys think about that? And see how they feel about trying to figure out where they're going to put up their Christmas tree or where they're going to be serving Christmas dinner. Ms. Field, thank you for all your work on this. I see there's basically 14 companies that have been involved in privatized military housing. Are any of them not acting like slumlords at this point? Are any of them doing a good job? Any of them?
Senator, I wouldn't want to characterize any individual company as good across the board or bad across the board. I would say that at almost every installation we visited, we found that the military housing officials on the ground were extremely frustrated with the private partner personnel on the ground, were not getting the cooperation or support they needed. There were some exceptions to that, which I would be happy to talk about. But I think it's fair to say, you know, as we've discussed earlier, whether tenants are satisfied at an 87% rate or not, there's clearly a problem here.
So one thing, you know, I read in some of the testimony is that sometimes families were confused when they went to the office as to who was the advocate for them that's paid by the taxpayer and who's actually a representative of the slumlord. So maybe they could wear their own T-shirts that say slumlord on them. I'm not trying to be facetious here, but actually identify themselves as whether they're with the company or whether they're with the housing office. There has to be some sort of distinguishing factor. I'd encourage our service chiefs just to ask them to do that. They need to know who's who, that they're not talking to the contractor when they're making a complaint. General Goffin, did you want to just say something about that?
Ma'am, I just offer that that there's a trifecta approach to this. There's the command team, yep. There's the housing management officer, yep. And the office, and then there's the privatized owner. And right. All three of those have to be engaged. And where we have good engagement by those three and ownership and responsiveness, it's working. Where right. One of those is not there, it doesn't work.
And just the family member, though, needs to know if they're coming in to vent their frustration, that whether they're talking to somebody who's representing the company versus somebody who's supposed to be their advocate. You guys agree? I'm trying to get audience engagement here. But one other factor is, you know, we specifically put language in as you're trying to hire more individuals in the housing offices and to be advocates, is to prioritize military spouses for those positions. Now, I don't think you need NDAA language for that. Is that something that each of the services are looking to do? Because, you know, they are at depression-level unemployment as well. This is something we've been working on this committee as well, related to military spouse employment. But pretty quickly, I bet you'd have a number of military spouses who would love to serve in that role. I'd like to hear from each of the services whether that's a priority.
Secretary Esper prioritized that early on in his tenure to give the opportunities for military spouses to have preference for hiring opportunities on the installation.
Are there positions that are open that are unfilled right now, though, that could quickly be used with, be filled with military spouses? Any of the other services want to jump in?
Senator, we've added 300 additional positions, and this is one of the problems that we discovered in our discovery this last year, was that, to your point, we didn't feel like we had enough advocates out there, and so we're adding 300. We're in the process of hiring them. We're also waiting on the appropriations bill to pass so that we can fund those positions. But prioritizing military spouses for those jobs is something that we're going to do.
Great, thanks. Secretary Barrett, you want to?
We have also established 219 new positions for residents advocates, and those would be great jobs for military spouses.
So, thanks. I'm almost out of time, but I want to just make sure everybody understands that the NDAA is being held up for political games. The Defense Appropriations Bill is being held up for political reasons that have nothing to do with our troops. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that without an NDAA and without the Defense Appropriations Bill at the level that we have agreed to or that we've been fighting for, this is going to hurt fixing some of these issues that military families are dealing with in military housing. Can I get a yes from everybody? Thank you. So let's get everybody on both sides of the aisle to vote those out and get them done this week. Thank you. I yield back.